Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now there's quite a bit of discussion going on at the moment about the price range of the skill extractors that was just announced by CCP. It's also coming in the patch on Tuesday, so it'll be upon us pretty soon. But it looks to me like they're aiming for around €5 or $5 for a skill extractor, which quite a few people seem to find too expensive. Honestly, it's within the realm of my expectations. I didn't think that they were gonna make this like $1 or €1 or something like that. It is a convenience. The respecking is like a service that CCP provides for you, and thus if you really want to like fully respec all your alts, then yeah, you're gonna have to pay a little bit of money to CCP, actually a decent amount of money to CCP, and I do think that this underscores that this feature is not something for the new players, as I've said in my opinions on the skill trading. I'm not against this in general, this feature, but doubting this as a solution for new players to catch up to older players, it's just not gonna work out that way. I think if a new player would do the mathematics about how much it would cost him in actual money to get enough skill points to fly a battleship, to fly whatever doctrine they want, well, they'll find out how much time and effort was already spent to creating a character that can do that. So yeah, we'll see how all of this is going to evolve, of course, but we can't exactly see a lot of what's happening on the market because of that right now, I don't think, except maybe the plex prices. So let's jump right in. At 2 minutes, writing that down, and let's check out what's happening with plex, which at the time of my checking, which was like 5 minutes ago, plex were 1238. Now they are 1250, so someone bought out all of the plexes below 1250. That's pretty interesting. Obviously, we're going to go back up here. 20-day moving average still going back up. So there was actually some momentum despite the dip here, which was due to a 10% plex sale that I had missed. It was actually on the launcher, so it was really good that people came out with that information right away. So at least I understood what was happening here. It was an actual plex sale. I guess that CCP wanted to keep the impact from the price announcement of the skill extractor a little bit under control, coming out with an extra 10% plex sale, dipping the price a little bit, but the response is here now. The news of these skill extractor, I think, is going to accentuate the movement. And then the biggest question for me is if this has some legs for a few weeks, let's say, as skill extractors actually come to the market, are being used, are being spent, then we could see plex going quite a bit higher. If on top of that we then start to get some announcements around an actual release date for the Citadel expansion, we could go pretty high for plex. We could be in for a bubble in the making. This could be the very start of that. Of course, can't know that beforehand, but yeah, just in the last 10 minutes or so, plex did just jump up another 12 million. Let's see, 1233, in fact another 17 million. So the lowest plex just 10 minutes ago was at 1233 and now it's at 1250. So someone just bought everything expecting them to go even higher, and I would have to agree with them. I think it is going to happen. So next up here we've got the pilot training certificate. Of obviously that one is going to be following suit, a little bit of a dip, but not as big as the plex dip, which I think is indeed the indication that it was just a plex sale, and as a result there was a little bit of a lagging behind and a little bit of a lower movement in the correction here for the training certificate. But that one is of course also shooting back up and is now at 1247 pretty much. I'm going to start just saying the number in millions right here. I think is going to be the easier than always going for 1,247,000,000. Just 1247 for the pilot training certificate. Yeah, just basically following the plex, of course. And next up we've got the pilot's body rescope certificate. Also very small dip, but not as visible in as it was in plex or the trading certificate, and now also bumping up, which I think is absolutely normal in this case, because this is the impact of the skill extractors, which is another sink for Aurum, and of course the body risk up is also bought with Aurum, so it's gonna have an impact on this regardless. So that is of course the reason why we're seeing these go up. 230 million for the sellers, 210 million for the buyers, but of course this is a pretty low volume item, probably an average of around 10 items but per day. It's really not that big. We're talking a volume of, what would that be, 2.3 billion per day. That's really peanuts compared to something like the plex market, which is, as I've said, going for 1.2 billion, and there are around more than 2,000 of them being traded every day. So it's pretty obvious that the size of these two markets is quite different. So yeah, for plex, those are my expectations so far in the very first hours after the announcement of the skill injector or extractor prices. It is following my expected scenario, so we'll have to wait and see in the upcoming days and weeks what the plex market is going to do. Let's move on to minerals, because I actually think that something interesting is happening here as well. 620. And titanium, let me see here, a lot was happening here as well. 644 for the sellers, 630 for the buyers. It's not really visible on the chart too much, but I felt like there was some pressure starting to build. But because we were at 659 last week, which must have been that little top here, where I said, okay, maybe titanium is actually set to break out a little bit and start trading closer to a 6.6 range, but apparently that was a short dip here. We actually corrected right back below 6.4 ISK, and the sellers are trying to keep the price above that, but it seems to be pretty hard to do so, despite the fact that the buyers are in pretty big numbers here. We still have 1.2 billion, 1 billion here, several more older orders of more than 1 billion units as well. So it's pretty obvious that we still have to give the edge to the buyers, and thus an increase in price could be happening, but it seems to be very difficult for titanium to break out in any significant way. So we're trading right around the 6.4 ISK price mark. If you keep the range of 6.2 to 6.4 in mind, we've been there for several months already, and it doesn't look like titanium is going to be able to break out in any significant way, despite the fact that week after week we do see a pretty strong demand here that is overshadowing the supply by quite a bit in volumes. So this is pretty interesting, and I think it is something that we should keep in mind. Apparently either the buyers are patient enough, or there's just enough being supplied to the market on a regular basis to keep the price from really increasing that much. Still, if you look at this chart, we are basically at the high point for 6 months, so I think high-tech miners are doing pretty good deals at the moment. Next up, pyrite, that was going down last week, and it looks like it managed to reach a bottom of 11.10 and is bumping up from there. Let's take a look at supply demand. 11.15 for the sellers, 11 for the buyers, very narrow margin here, so it's pretty obvious that around 11.10 is the new price range here for pyrite. 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, all of these are sellers. Here we've got another 100 million, so this is a pretty decent volume. On the buyers we do have 500 million, almost a billion, 600 million, that's quite a bit older here, so, and that's at 10.58. So again, in the volumes, I have to give the edge to demand, but we've seen that throughout the last weeks and months as being the case, and despite that, pyrite is actually dropping down from a top of 11.7 to 11.2 ISK. Not that drastic, but on this chart it's really weird that pyrite is not managing to maintain higher prices despite the very high demand for all of these minerals. So I think that this is something to try and analyze and to maybe try and find the reason for that, what could possibly be happening here. Let's see if it's happening across the board. Here is the Mexalon chart. Pretty obviously, this is also breaking the trend here. I think it's something that I was warning about last week, because there were quite a few sell orders there, but Mexalon dipping below 60 ISK on the chart could be a sign for some more instability coming through to the Mexalon market, which has been very, very stable, just above 60 ISK for quite a while. Let's take a look here at the supply-demand numbers. So we're still seeing 55 million coming in, despite the fact that we are below 60 ISK. Here we get another 68 million, another 25, another 46, all of these in the last 24 hours. On the buyer side, we do have one order of 134 million, but look at that, it's already quite a bit older, and one buy order of 64 million ISK. So the Mexalon one is the first one in quite a while that I'm actually seeing more supply than demand, more pressure on the price, and the fact that we just broke 60 ISK does mean that we could go quite a bit lower for Mexalon here all of a sudden. And this is a little bit strange to me, because even in Isogen, which was actually at a low point for 6 months and bumped off from that, the high-sec minerals are all doing something a little bit differently when it comes to their prices, and it's a pretty unusual situation, which could indicate that something is in the making. Psychologically, people should, or I think are preparing their stocks and positioning themselves around the Citadel expansion, because the Citadels, the new capital ships that are coming out, are going to be major sources of minerals that will be needed. And so I guess people are just not banking on Isogen at the moment, which is a little bit weird to me, but they are banking pretty heavily on Tritanium. If you look at the price right there, it's definitely a strange situation to be. So Isogen obviously went as low as 100 ISK, pretty close to that on the chart, bumped off of that, but we are close to a 6-month low. 102 for the sellers, 99.6 for the buyers. Again, pretty small margin, and despite that, we still have 7 and 8.5 million units coming in here. Decently large orders here as well, 10 million, another 7 million. On the buyers, we have to go quite a bit lower to find the first one at 20 million units. It is less than a day old, but it is really the only one that is of any significant volume compared to the sell orders, pretty much balancing this out, still giving a slight edge to the sellers here at the moment. Which is quite unusual, right? That we're seeing this difference between all of these high-sec minerals, and I'm starting to feel that there is a bit of pressure on the high-sec mineral market in general. It's just that Tritanium has managed to maintain a pretty high price here at the moment, but all of the other ones are definitely showing signs of pressures and even breaking here in the Mexalon market. Noxium, of course, ouch, that's really gonna hurt. Actually going to a 6-month low. We had a testing of a bottom at 470, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times before this, but now the bottom just came out under the Noxium market. We're trading in the 460 ISK price range, which is really not a lot for Noxium, and it's actually been a pretty big focus of mine for mining as well, so I have decent stocks of these. So that's not very good news for the Noxium miners, and despite that, look at this, 1.2, 3.5 and another 2 million units coming in as the latest orders. They're nowhere near that, really. Just some opportunistic buy orders at 455, but Noxium extremely depressed at the moment. It can be had both from high-sec and from null-sec, and I guess it's just way oversupplied at the moment with lower prices in 6 months. If this one ever makes a comeback, it could be a really good investment. If I go for a 1-year chart, can we still see where we come from? Yeah, 680, so trading at like a 650 range, and now a 460 range, 50% loss over a year. Pretty damn significant. If that could make a comeback, of course, then you're looking at really good point here to jump in on some of that cheap Noxium. It's all up to you, of course. So let's take a look at the null-sec ones. Here is the Zydrine chart taking off. Ouch, whoa, unexpectedly in my book. The bottom was at 900, but now we're clearly taking off. Sellers for Zydrine let's not have this latest sell order in mind, and we are talking 1275 ISK for Zydrine, which makes quite a bit of a comeback here all of a sudden. It's sort of weird. Let's take a quick look at Megasite to make a comparison. That one is going up, but not as significantly. In fact, the sellers for Megasite are coming in at 1153 and the sellers for Zydrine at 1275. It happened. Zydrine passed Megasite in price. Zydrine is now considered to be more expensive, more valuable than Megasite. An unprecedented situation historically. This has never happened in all of my playtime playing EVE Online. This is completely out of whack. To me, this is almost smelling like a little bit of Zydrine manipulation personally, because this is pretty sharp rise here. This could be like cartel trading. On the other hand, there are plenty of Zydrine sources in nullsec and in wormhole space that it is very, very hard to do. So if this is something that Zydrine can maintain, then I do think at some point Megasite is going to follow suit. It just means that there are some stocks that are still have to be depleted in Megasite, and once those will be done, then we could see that one go higher. Once again, that's another possibility. It could be a Zydrine thing. It could be that the Zydrine stocks are just empty, because those were always a little bit cheaper than Megasite. They've emptied out first, and now the Megasite has yet to deplete, and thus this one is lagging behind. That's another possibility. I think either one of those two is possible for this unprecedented situation. I've never seen anything like this. And then I'll touch on Morphite. It was requested. I did basically forget about it in the last 2 weeks. The reason I tend to forget about Morphite once in a while is because it is not tied to Tech 1 production. It's really a very unique mineral here that is actually tied to Tech 2 production, where I think most of the Tech 2 cost, or a lot of the Tech 2 cost, comes from actual moon mining stuff. So it's definitely something pretty unique when it comes to the mineral market. It's definitely going down, right? We're at a 6-month low at 10.8k. The top was 12.8, but despite that, if we look here at the chart from November in the last 4 or 5 months, honestly, compare that to like Megasite, which comes from nullsec, compare that to Zydrine, if you don't keep the latest increase in price into account, then Morphite has done a really good job of maintaining its price range. It managed to stay just above 11,000 ISK for quite a while. We broke that now, but we bounced off of 10.8 thousand ISK here for Morphite. I'm really surprised at the stability in the last 1 to 3 months for Morphite here, doing a really good job maintaining its price. It is true we are at a 6-month low, but I think if you look at the other nullsec minerals like Megasite and Zydrine, Morphite has done a really good job of staying stable. The sellers are still above 11,000 ISK. The buyers are trying to drag the price lower by buying at 10.750. This is a decent margin as well. This is something that's tradable. This is something that has been a pretty good store of value compared to the other minerals, nullsec minerals, I must say. So Morphite, honestly, I'm decently surprised by this, except if you take into account that Tech 2 could be a pretty important meta at the moment. It's produced quite a lot. We also saw the decrease in volatility in the Tech 2 market as Morphite stayed stable here around the December range, and I think that was just bigger volumes, more production, more stability in the Tech 2 market in general, thus high demand for Morphite, and managing to maintain a really decent price. I must say that this looks like it's in a bad range, but it actually is not in a bad range. Compare that to Noxium, for instance. This is historically a very bad price for it. For Morphite, this is actually a normal, good price. So that's my read on the Morphite market, honestly. Next up, Tech 1 chips, 1855. So let's go over these a little bit more quickly, I think, because of all the weirdness in both the nullsec minerals and the highsec minerals, it's going to be impossible for me to find like a correlation, right? A reason why most chips are up, some chips are down, or anything like that. So let's just view the Tech 1 market for what it is here. The Armageddon staying at 214 million. Let's see if there are finally some of them coming to the market. A couple days ago, someone did bring 76 Armageddons to the market at 215. That's going to put a little bit of more of a ceiling on the price of the Armageddon. If more people come in, we could actually see that one correct back a little bit. So it's not the number of orders, but it's a pretty big volume one here that came in at 215. So could help stabilize and maybe bring down the Armageddon a little bit. Next up here we've got the Caracal. Trade range of 11.4, 11.5 seems pretty normal. We just have some variations around that. A decrease in volatility can be spotted if you look at the tops and the bottoms, so that's looking pretty good, and the market looks decently well stocked with more than half a front page of new ones, including 14, 26, 12. Looks like a more normal, stable, healthy Tech 1 market here for the Caracal. Next up we've got the Dominics. Trade range 195 to 210 million. Okay, some instability here to be seen, some breakouts as well. So I'm definitely not seeing a decrease in volatility in the Dominics just yet, but it is decently supplied, and at least it's finding somewhat of a trade range here. I would say from 195 to 210 million. Let's hope that from here it can actually start to stabilize if people find the opportunity to bring more Dominics, like here 65 of them in the last 24 hours, then it could finally stabilize as well. I think it's in the cards for the Dominics at least. The Armageddon is still at a high and it's pretty much empty, so that's going to be difficult to do there. But if the other ones are showing that sign, like the Drake right here, breakout to 57, you could say, well, that's definitely not a sign of stability, but just look at how sharp the pullback is. Look at how sharp the response from the market is. Really nice to see, to be honest. You can still see decreasing tops and increasing bottoms here. I think this is actually a pretty damn good sign. And look at the Drake market here. We're finally seeing a smooth increase in price across the sellers. We're seeing new Drakes coming in, 20, 38, 16 of them in the last 24 hours. This should all help stabilize the Drake market. So instability in the mineral market and the first signs of more and more stability in the Tech 1 market. It's just crazy if you're looking for correlations between the two, which normally should be pretty close. Next up here, the Mauler, of course, really decently stable, heading towards 11 million, just above that. As a trade range, decently well stocked as well. Half a front page of new ones, including 144, 68, 13 Maulers here. Looks pretty decent. Looks to me like industrial activity could finally be catching up here. Next up, we've got the Myrmidon. This is a little bit of a bulge here, again with a final attempt at increasing the price up to 57 million, but a very, very sharp response, and maybe even a little bit of an over response, because we are actually again at the bottom of 52 million, very close to that on the chart, which is sort of weird. You know, the Myrmidon started 6 months ago at the lowest point, and now 6 months later is again at the lowest point. But this could be like a bit of an overreaction, which is something we've not seen in a very long time. It basically means that Myrmidons were pretty much bought out, emptied below 57 million. Someone made a big move on the Myrmidons, but the industrial response has been so significant. If you look at what's been coming in here below 57 million, right here, immediately 55, 54, 54, 53.8. Here we go immediately with 10, 44, 16, 44 Myrmidons, pushing the price well below what would have been an average of like 54 million all of a sudden. So the buyers are going for 50 million on Myrmidons, and some of those people are actually picking those up when there are impatient traders selling them for that price. So I think this will of course come back a little bit. 54 million seems to be the normal trade range for the Myrmidon, but it's been a very long time since we've actually seen a correction overshoot the average price a little bit, which again in my book means that there is more potential for more stability. Next up here we've got the Oracle. That's actually looking like a decently stable price between 80 and 90 million here. Of course, we are apparently going up just a little bit. Let's take a look at the number of oracles. Not that many coming in less than 24 hours ago. It's not that big in volume, so there is some work to be done on the oracles. This is open to be manipulated back up quite significantly if people are willing to spend below 90 million, let's say, on an oracle. It could still happen. This one is in danger, honestly, to break out, because the volumes just aren't there. The transition like from 85 to 90 is not doesn't have enough volumes here to sustain any big hits on the oracle market. So be careful here. That one is stable on the chart, but doesn't have the volumes necessary to necessarily maintain that. Here we've got the Raven. Decently sharp reaction on an increase in price here as well. Are we going to stabilize just below 190? It is possible. I would say we have decent volumes here as well, from 190, 191, 192, 195, 6, etc. It looks like it could be happening. Less than 24 hours old though. We've got 6 of them here and we've got 1 of them here, so not that much. Volume wise, 20, 40 of them every day. So yeah, industrialists might want to make a little bit more yet if they want to have a stable Tech 1 market. But on the smaller ships, it's definitely happening. Here, for instance, the Stabber, big first price spike, but you can see that those tops are decreasing and that we're settling just above 11 million here. Decently supplied markets. Well, okay, at least we have 30 and 21 of them coming in here, so it could still be happening if enough Stabbers keep coming to the market. Next up here, the Tornado. Tornado. I was actually thinking of the Typhoon. Trade range 74 to 76 million. Pretty stable in the last month or so. Again, decreasing volatility if you look at the tops and the bottoms, and at least that's slightly better. It's not huge in volume, but we still have 6 of them coming in the latest order. We still have 21 of them here as well. We've got a decent transition of sell orders in the increase in price as well. 111, I don't like to see that much, but it's all within the same trade range. So I think the Tornado indeed could stay stable in the foreseeable future. Next up here we've got the Typhoon. Again, lovely double spike to 194, but pretty sharp response here after a couple of days, and now trading in the 182 range, despite the fact that we're empty. No Typhoons here on the market. That's kind of strange. Does that mean that there's actually a top here that the chart has yet to catch up to? It is possible. Big volume spike? Nope, not really. So yeah, Typhoon just not in vogue at the moment. Typhoon and Armageddon 176 quite okay, but there's just 2 Typhoons for sale in Cheetah at the moment. That's just sort of crazy. That is also not something you see that much. Could be that Typhoon has to come back a little bit in the media or something, or in the meta to be produced more. But at least for the smaller ships, I'm seeing more and more signs of stability. The Vexor dropping to 11.5 million, and look at that, decent volume numbers right here. So that's actually pretty good for the Vexor to stay 11.5 to 12 million price range. No problem to report there, I think. So that's pretty good. Let's take a look at the Tech 2 market, 2740. And let's see if some of them are dropping back down. First one here, Basilisk, obviously, lovely spike to 220. That was a lot of money you could have made here. It is finally dropping down. Let's take a quick look where the buy orders are at. 182.5, so still here on the charts, below 180 you definitely have a bottom, but here the chart has we still have to go down just a little bit. You know, that price spike here was so significant, so across the board in the entire Tech 2 market, that it's normal, I think, that we need some time to actually go back down here. Next up, we've got the Cerberus managing to maintain a price of close to 200 million. So I would obviously still try to sell if you haven't done so already, but on the buy order side, nope, just still wait it out. Next up here we've got the Guardians selling in the 140 million trade range. Probably a little too late to sell, way too early to buy. You need buy orders below 130 for that, 137, they're definitely not there yet. So the Guardian still needs some time to go back down. Here we get the Hound. Finally, yeah, last week was your sell opportunity at 27 million, going down to 22 million. The buyers at 20 million. So this has completely closed. Decent volumes. This is going to put a lot of pressure on the Hound market. This will go back down, but we're nowhere near the bottom yet. So too late to sell, I think. Too early to buy. I mean, if you still have some that you picked up at 16 to 17 million, you can still try to make some money out of it, but you're a little bit too late for the real action, of course. Next up here, the Ishtar, yeah, working on a 6-month high of 200 million. So if you have those, you definitely want to sell, I think, at this price range, because this is going to start to make its way back, but pretty interesting. Next up here, we've got the Manticore. Did a double jump up to 28 million, but it is on its way down now. Buyers at 23. Buyers need to be close to 20 million. So again, a little bit too late to sell. I think you could still sell if you bought at the actual bottoms, but way too early to buy. Next up here we've got the Nemesis, also lovely spike up to 24. It's working its way down to 22 million, but again, we need to be in the 17 million 18 million trade range for an actual bottom here. So again, probably a little bit too late for the selling, way too early for the buying. It's like that across the board. Here we've got the Oneros also pulling back, but only like around a third of the way towards its bottom. Next up here we've got the Purifier actually working its way up, so that one lagged behind a little bit. Purifiers are going for 24 million at the moment. If you manage to buy them below 18 million, you're making good money, so your sell opportunity for the Purifiers is here and now. If you have them, then you should definitely make your move on these. Next up here we've got the Scimitar. Yeah, the upswing was not that violent here, so we are correcting a little bit, but it is still way too early to say that you should be buying them. If you bought them at 120 and you can now sell them for 135, something like that, it's still more than 10%, but the very best opportunity is unfortunately over already. And next up here we've got the Vengeance working on 23 million ISK. So this is better if you bought them at 19 million. This is your sell opportunity, but as I've said, I don't like the Vengeance personally compared to something like the covered ups here. That was way more volatile, way more money to be made here than on the Vengeance, with one increase, slow burn, second increase. I mean, how do you time something like that? Pretty hard to do. How do you time something like that? Well, just see this increase in price, increasing in volatility, and at this point or this point, you just put them on the market and you sell them for a very hefty profit. So the Tech 2 market, I think, still needs a little bit of time to recover from the sell opportunity that happened simultaneously across almost all of the ones that I check, and as a result, now you can still make some money if you're late on the sell fiesta, but if you actually want to buy and make some trade money that way, you're way too late. Honestly, if you want to buy, I'd make my moves on Tech 3 at the moment, which we're moving to right now at 32.20. And let's take a look here. Confessor stabilizing at around 60 million. Volumes though, yeah, pretty dangerous. We still have 101 of them right here, but if those disappear, then we could be in for a price spike in the Confessor, and then buying at the moment, you know, if you can pick them up for like 55 million, decent trade range here, then it could be a decent move, honestly. If we'd seen a bigger page here of Confessors and more of them coming in the last 24 hours, I would say that maybe we could be in for more stability, but this is starting to look like another price spike could be in the making for the Confessor. Next up we've got the Hecate going down to 55 million, so that one is being pressured by supply, as you can see right here. So those are decent volumes. You need some time or really deep pockets to bring the Hecate back up. This one is pretty obviously one that's going to be decently stable. Could also be a good time to pick a few up if you actually want to make some trade money, but that's obviously going to be way longer in time than the Confessor, which, if it happens, it could happen any day, to be honest. You just need someone to say, okay, 60 million for 100 Confessors, that's good for me. He picks him up, and then we could be off to the races for the Confessor. Next up here we get the Jackdaw, jumped up just above 60 million here, and the response is here. So you can see the entire front page is less than 24 hours old, 20, 15, 16, 10. So this has been squashed pretty quickly and is going to stabilize back down here for the Jackdaw. So definitely not one I would make a move on for short term. Next up here we've got the Legion going down from 220 to 190. Started at 180 to 220. As you can see, that was pretty decent for some trade, but there is still, definitely decent supply coming in here. This is still less than 24 hours old. So almost 1.5 front pages, probably 60, 70 legions coming in here, quashing the, putting some pressure on the price here, going below 190, 193 for the sellers, 185 for the buyers. So we'll probably start stabilizing here, but you can see the volatility, the options here and there as well. The Legion though now needs some time, I think, because of all of the supply that just came in. Next up we've got the Loki, also slowly going back down below 190. What's the supply looking like? 171, 15 of them a couple of days ago. That's pretty decent. We still have a dozen of them coming in less than 24 hours ago. So there is obviously decent supply of the Lokis. I don't think that that one is going to jump up right now. This supply needs to dry up a little bit, and then it could be primed for another increase in price. Here's the Proteus also going back down towards 180. That could be pretty interesting. 177 for some of the sellers, 174 for the buyers. And if you look at some of these spikes, 220, 240, 210, 210, then 170. Are we talking here? Yeah, 175 for a Proteus could actually be a pretty decent buy on future volatility. Could it be primed for that? There is some work to be done, especially here, 23, 10. There are decent volumes, but you don't see 100 of them anymore, like what you just saw. What is it here in the Loki, for instance? So it's not for right now. But the volumes here in the sellers individually are not that big, and this could be worked through pretty quickly actually. So be a little bit careful for the approaches. It could be the exact right time now to jump in on trying to acquire a few of them at a decent price. Next up here we've got the Zwepel going down below 60 million, managing to maintain that. Really good supply honestly on this one. If you look at the numbers, not that much less than 24 hours ago, but yeah, 25, 20. Just look at these volumes. The Zwepel is not really the one that's going to trigger by next week, I don't think. And then the Tengu is also correcting back down decently significantly. 183 for the sellers, 176 for the buyers. Still 17 of them coming in, still almost an entire front page less than 24 hours ago. So we definitely have decent volumes here as well. Managing, I think, to maintain the Tengu for now. I would say that the Legion and the Proteus are both primed for medium term. The Confessor could be pretty short term once this gets picked up, honestly. So yeah, that's it for the Tech 3 market. I'm starting to try and look at this one from trade opportunities perspective now and then. It's tricky to say because there are constantly a few individual Tech 3 ships that are being emptied out, that know pretty spiky behavior. The volumes I think are increasing across the board though, so more and more stability I think is slowly creeping in to the Tech 3 market, but a few of these sell opportunities have been just absolutely amazing. Just look at the spikes here on the Proteus. That was a lot of money to be made on these as well. So it's up to you to decide, you know, if the Tech 2 market just isn't working out for you at the moment because it still needs some time to recuperate and you have some ISK to spend and you want to make some trade money, then maybe the Tech 3 market could be the place to do it. But again, I'm starting to see a few signs of bigger volumes and more stability here, so be slightly careful with that one as well. And then next up, the extra products, 38.25. And I have quite a few requests, so I'm actually going to try and fulfill most of these. Let me see here. First of all, it's one that is requested decently often. It's the gecko. So let's take a look at the gecko. Of course, the arguably best drone in the game, and one that is not being produced anymore. So the big price spike here up to 120 has been shot down by the announced carrier changes. Carriers were of course major customers for the gecko, and this is just due to the carrier changes, but it has stabilized at 75 million. And let's take a look here at the volumes. They are starting to sell for 82 million, 81 million, buyers at 76. So I think we are on our way back up for the gecko. I do think that we're close to, if you still want to stock up on them, then this is probably the time to do so, because these are not produced anymore. And thus will probably, they're probably primed to start increasing in price just as more geckos are destroyed or lost. And things like that, because they are not produced anymore. So I actually think that if you want to gamble on the gecko for maintaining the value of your ISK, maintaining some of your assets, then this is the time to actually make your move on these and actually buy a few of them, because we are talking longer range protection here. We're talking years down the road. What is the gecko going to do, assuming that CCP doesn't make more of them? And this decrease in price here is not because they made more of them, but because they decided that carriers were no longer going to use drones. Then yeah, the gecko is definitely the right place to put those in, I think. So that's the gecko. It's at almost at a 6-month low, but of course it looks like right now it has absorbed the carrier changes and is primed to start to go back up, just on a natural for natural reasons that they're not being produced in the game anymore. So that's one of them. Next up we had the DPI. Someone actually asked me to keep an eye on the planetary materials for the citadels, so I'll take another look at the advanced ones here. So here are the broadcast nodes, just below 2 million and starting to trade around this range. 2 million is still quite okay. I think to be able to maintain this, volumes are still pretty decent, and so it's going to keep trading around this range. This was not one of them that shot up too crazily, so this could actually be okay. Integrity response drones though, as I said, shot up to almost 3 million, 2.8 million, and that one did need to correct back a little bit. So volumes are back, and pressure on the integrity response drone is here as well. They're now trading in the 2.4 million range. So that one prediction from I think 2 weeks ago did already come out. Some of these PI materials were just manipulated, overshot by quite a bit, and thus you can now easily pick those up for better prices here. So that happened. Next up we've got the Nano Factory, still trying to find this price range, but 1.3 million was a little bit too high. Still that one has stayed more stably. Percentage wise increase from like 0.9 million to 1.2 million is not that drastic. Volumes are quite healthy, so Nano Factories for your citadels, I think it's quite okay to pick those up at this trade range. Yeah, integrity response drones at 2.4 million could still be a little too high, but if you want in on your citadels, this is an okay price to actually purchase them on. 2.8 million though was a little bit too high. Organic mortar applicators also a little bit of pressure, but at a price of 1 million is quite okay, well supplied as well. I think this is doable. Recursive computer module 2 double spikes to 1.7 million, now trading in the 1.6 million range. Really good volumes here. To be honest, this could still be a little too high, but 1.1 million to 1.6 million, it's still okay. You know, it's not like this is 3 million, which was definitely too high. So I think this is still okay. And next up we've got a self-harmonizing power core. That one traded up to 2.3 million, but had to give back quite a bit of ground to 1.9 million. So here there was a bit of a bubble creation that was happening. The correction happened, and you're now once again paying less than 2 million for the self-harmonizing power core. Really good volumes here as well. So I think that this is actually quite okay to pick those up again for your Citadel preparations. Sterile conduits, 1.8 million, really high volumes as well. Pretty decent spike honestly to 1.9 million, so these are pretty expensive. If you have the patience, then this could actually push back a little bit. This could go down quite a bit lower, but again, less than 2 million is still quite okay. It was mostly the integrity response drones which tried to get to 3 million. That was just never gonna happen. And then we get the wetware mainframe, 2.1 million. That has corrected quite substantially. This one also tried to break out towards 2.8 million. Was just never going to happen, and that correction happened as I was expecting it to happen. These were two of the materials that I still needed. So in the last week or so, I did manage to basically pick up almost everything that I needed for a large Citadel here, and including the wetware mainframes and the integrity response drones after they pulled back quite a little bit. So that prediction did just happen, except for the sterile conduits. I actually think that all of these are now trading in acceptable ranges. 2 million for this. Considering the hype, considering you're trying to prepare for something on day one, I think the premiums that are being paid here are acceptable, honestly. So it's good to see that this actually did pull back as expected. And then there was a little bit of request for salvage as well. Now, salvage is really huge, quite big. So what I'll just do is I'll quickly go over these and see if there are any actual trends or something like that to report. Alloyed titanium bar definitely going up quite substantially at a 6-month high right here. I'll try at some point, but I think closer to the expansion, to just basically write down all of the ones that are involved in the rigs for the Citadels, and then I'll have those be a special when I really focus on these, but right now I have not had the time to do so. So I'll just take a quick look across the board here. Armor plates also at a 6-month high. Neural networks correcting a little bit, but you can see where they come from. Artificial neural networks correcting a little bit, so it's not across the board, but broken drone transceiver 6-month high, burnt logic circuit 6-month high, capacitor console definitely not as at a 6-month high, had to give back almost all of the ground it made right here in October, so that one did go down. Chart micro circuits, except for this spike, honestly, almost at a 6-month high, but it's not that big of a move over the last 6 months, so that's quite okay. Conductive polymers though, those are obviously at a 6-month high here, quite a premium you're paying for those at the moment. Thermoplastics, big spike up here, but stabilizing around 60k, still 6-month high, so that is happening. Contaminated Lawrence fluids also. Nanite compounds, yeah, it's at the highest point from 6,000 to 8,000. Quite a bit of volatility to be spotted here as well. Pretty interesting. The current pump actually had to give back some of its ground. Damaged artificial neural network at a pretty high point here. Deceptive current pump, honestly, from 300 to 400. That actually looks quite normal. Drone transceiver though, obviously big move up here, and again at a high point for the last 6 months. Same with the enhanced ward consoles. Freight transceiver though, the first one to be done on 6 months, from 5,200 to 4,800. I suspect that this one is not used in the Citadel rigs. Here is the consoles. Yeah, still definitely you're paying a premium for that one. Here are the intact armor plates, starting at 4 million, ending at 5 million here. So premium of around 20%, 25% to be paid there. Shield emitter definitely at a high point as well. Interface circuit, is that Tech 2? I think that's actually Tech 2. That one actually went down in price a little bit. Quite some instability though, so interesting market again. Tech 2 for trade opportunities. Yeah, then this is Tech 2 again. Logic circuits. Is all of this Tech 2? Let me see. Nope, here is the shield emitter. Actually managed to maintain a decently stable price. Melted capacitor console at a 6-month high right here. Microcircuits. Here the instability started, settling at 16k, actually down in the last few weeks or so. Nanite compound also down for 6 months. So it's definitely not like everything is up across the board. The Tech 2 salvage actually seems to have been going down substantially in price for the most part. But a lot of them are obviously at 6-month highs at a really big premium because of preparations for the Citadel expansion here. Once again, this is also at a high point. Same for this one. Same for this one, pretty obviously climbing up. Again, tangled power conduit, also highest trade range telemetry processor. Thruster console seems to be spiking up really substantially all of a sudden. Trigger units also at a 6-month high. Trip power circuits, pretty common one, is actually maintaining its trade range over 6 months. And then here we have the word consoles. So a big majority, I would say an easy 60-70% of them are trading in very high trade ranges. A few of them are just not really, are showing some volatility because of all of this, but are not in this trend. And then the Tech 2 ones actually seem to be dropping in price, probably oversupplied at the moment. So that is a quick look at the salvage materials, which was also a request. I also did the gecko, and I also did once again the advanced PI materials. I hope that this helps you prepare. A lot of this is due to the Citadel expansion. A lot of money is being made and lost here, but yeah, I'm in this preparation mode as well. I'm not going to just give away all my secrets. Still keep the requests coming. I try to cover them as much as I can. For next week, I did write down the gas request. So if nothing too special jumps out there, of course, with the skill extractor, it could happen that that's going to take a little bit more doing. But I try to take your requests. I try to cover them. So that's going to be it for this week, I think. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.